It's a pleasure to be here to present the Mosaïc study. It's not only my project, so it's a team effort. So why menopause? So why study menopause? Is it because in Stephen's lab we are mostly women, or men have an interest in the subject? Maybe, or is it because it's a very, very pertinent model where metabolic and cognitive change have yet to be addressed and understood? That's what I will try to convince. Menopause is a reproductive transition state that is characterized by clinically defined stage and, in fact, multiple organ systems. In fact, many menopausal symptoms are neurological in nature, such as hot flashes, disturbed sleep, mood change, forgetfulness. Sorry. The menopause transition is orchestrated by change in hormone, mostly estrogen, and the decline of those hormones will have an impact on the systemic, but also a cerebral impact. Estrogen has a role in the reproductive system, but also in the brain. So the decline will cause a systemic impact and will increase the risk for the woman going through menopausal transition for many diseases, like cardiovascular disease, cancer, obesity, depression, metabolic syndrome, osteoporosis, etc. There will also be more specific brain-related increased risk because of the impact of the decrease of estrogen in the brain, principally what will interest us. Disruption of brain metabolism that may contribute to cognitive decline. So the menopause transition, there's different way to define it for the purpose of this study. That's a little bit the definition we will use. So the pre-menopause, the reproductive fertile phase of women for throughout their life, there will be a mostly regular flow and change of hormones, but 8 to 10 years before menopause, we will call it peri in the presentation and the project. Around age 45, there will start to be changes in the hormones that will vary throughout all those years. That will finally cause arrive at menopause with a cessation of menstruation approximately around age 51. The most common way to define those are based on the Stratton criteria that are used in this project. So what about cognitive decline? So preclinical studies have shown that brain can adapt to change in estrogen level and its receptor activity during the menopausal transition. This adaptive response may be reduced or incomplete in some women, which may explain the wide range of experience among women, because some will have a lot of symptoms, some won't have any symptoms. This brain adaptation can also explain why symptoms often ease after menopause. Related to cognitive function, there's some study that shows that the cognitive function may return to premenopausal level after menopause, which may be related to hormone therapy. I will come back to that a little bit later. Anyhow, 40 to 60 of peri and postmenopausal women report cognitive difficulties, which are confirmed by lower performance on cognitive tests. Also, it is of note that 2/3 of people with Alzheimer's disease are women. So that shows that there's still and not a lot is known to explain those phenomena, and we think that understanding those mechanisms could lead to earlier and more effective prevention strategy for cognitive decline, but also help support women's brain health and quality of life throughout menopause transition. I'm doing just a little parenthesis on hormone replacement therapy. This is the main treatment for menopause symptoms, but it is still controversial. Or not, because as last week, FDA changed their warning label after so many years, and so maybe it will change, and we will have other data, and it's for sure going to be a very important confounder in all the menopausal study. But for the purpose of this presentation, we will not talk about that because I can talk about that just for a whole presentation. Because we decided the project to exclude women with hormonal therapy. It's the first project, first step. This will be maybe another step, but it's a big confounder, so we decided to exclude them. So I'm not going to talk much about that later. Anyhow, it may not be adequate for certain conditions, so I like the needs for a complementary approach anyway. What about metabolism? So estrogen play a key role for a metabolic role also. Will influence insulin secretion, lipid storage, glucose availability, and specifically in the brain will regulate brain glucose metabolism. So therefore, if there's a decrease in estrogen, for sure it will contribute to all those metabolic things, like it will may participate in causing insulin resistance, the risk of metabolic syndrome, and in the brain will disrupt glucose signaling, and brain energy will become in a hypometabolic state. So you see where I'm going with that. Studies in animal show that in response to this glucose deprivation, the perimenopausal brain shifts to a bioenergetic state relying on ketones. But the mechanism in human is unknown and wasn't studied yet. This is the story you've heard all day. So we know that during aging, the brain's high energy demand make it sensitive to change in fuel supply, and that the reduced brain glucose metabolism may be a feature of aging and neurodegenerative disease like Alzheimer, Parkinson, etc. But that while the brain glucose decreases with aging, its ability to utilize ketones remain preserved, which support that the increasing ketone in the brain may help slow cognitive decline. This is what Maggie showed this morning, what we showed in the Melifix study, the Parker study. I'm not going to go through all those results again, but very quickly, increase in ketone with the MCT oil supplementation give a big increase, 2.3-fold increase in brain ketone metabolism that was correlated with positive cognitive outcome. And also, like we saw today, the ketone intervention and a better understanding of the ketone metabolism have also other interesting in other disease or condition. So what about glucose brain metabolism in menopause? There is only one study that has examined brain glucose metabolism during the menopausal transition, but no PET study has yet explored brain ketone. If we see here, the study, this is a PET FDG, so like the same kind of PET we do in our team, and in 3 groups of women, pre, peri, and post. You see that the glucose cerebral metabolic rate was decreased in different regions. This is from a multimodal neuroimaging study, and it's interesting because they also add MRI and different modalities, and they show that the gray matter volume increased after menopause. So when I evoke some compensatory process that that may restore some function or some changes after the menopause, this is some cue what we can look at in the project. So the Mosaïc study, there's, like I said, there is no study done on ketone brain metabolism, and even more so, the link between brain energy metabolism, cognition, menopause status, symptom, brain structure, and neuropathology has never been investigated, and our team is uniquely positioned to fill this gap. Last interesting things, there's other brain imaging modalities that can shed light on hormone-related change in women, like PET study, but with a tracer of estrogen receptor. Increase in estrogen receptor in the brain may be one of the adaptive mechanisms for compensatory process. For now, estrogen receptor PET is used mostly in oncology, and their role in the brain is poorly understood. There is only 2 of those studies done in women, one in Sherbrooke, and another one I'm presenting here. So this is standardized uptake value, so a relative amount of tracer in the brain or estrogen receptor. This is pre and this is post menopause. So we see that there's a lot more receptor in a lot of region in the brain. Sorry. So we have this tool here in Sherbrooke, so it will be a nice addition to the project. So the Mosaïc study design and protocol. So the objective is to investigate the relationship between brain energy metabolism, particularly the brain use of glucose and ketone, cognition, menopausal status via the hormone level, while examining the impact of various contextual factors, symptom, cognition, quality of life, structural brain changes, peripheral glucose, etc. So this will be a cross-sectional observational study. There will be 3 groups, like I said at the beginning, pre, peri, and post group that will have to complete 3 visits each. A few exclusion criteria briefly. Like I said, women taking hormone replacement therapy or hormonal contraceptive will be excluded of the study for this first study. Also, type 1 diabetes or removal of ovaries or uterus because some important hormonal changes. So the study design, after the eligibility visit, participants will have 3 visits, cognition, and they will have to come twice at the research center for the PET scan. It was not possible to do all that in the same day. The clinical outcome will be the cognition and questionnaire for menopause symptom, but other complementary outcome like sleep, depression, physical activity. The imaging outcome, I will get to that next slide. And metabolic and hormonal outcome via blood tests, but also via continuous glucose monitoring for approximately 10 days. That will give us interesting data too. So multimodal imaging, I don't want to compete with Kevin. I have a bigger multimodal to present. We always said the double tap, now it's triple tap. So the classic acetoacetate and FDG PET scan with the MRI, and now we have the new estrogen receptor scan that we do in another region. So it's a new project, so we don't have a result for now. The progress, we had the final authorization to start the project at the end of the summer, so we're about 1/3 of the participants included in the study yet. As of now, is going very well. A little bit more complicated to organize the schedule, but it's working well. We had the first, not the first ever in Sherbrooke, but our first data for the estrogen receptor PET scan on top. The other one, maybe you've seen a few of those today, but still interesting to see that our protocol is working well to do all of those, to look at all those outcomes. The same for the glucose monitoring. We're going to work with G7 Dexcom that will give us data every 5 minutes, so we'll be able to look at the different variable outcome for the. So we expect to better understanding of the metabolic and brain aspect of the menopausal transition that would help clarify the mechanism underlying the cognitive decline observed during this period. And by identifying potential energy deficit and the contextual factor influencing these changes, we think that this study could pave the way for innovative clinical approach, possibly including ketogenic intervention to support the health of menopausal women. So I'd like to thank Nestlé Health Science, who is the principal funding for this project. Marie-Christine was our very important reference person for the clinical question and problem, and all the teams, Dr. Tessy and even Stephen for the project. So, thank you.